The storm had settled in like an unwelcome guest, draping the quiet neighborhood of Sycamore Lane in a heavy veil of rain and wind. Most windows were shut tight, lights dimmed, families tucked safely away. But out near the sidewalk, just beneath a flickering street lamp, something strange sat motionless, a tattered navy blue suitcase, its sides scuffed and fabric soaked through. Beside it, unmoving and silent, was a stray cat. No one knew where the suitcase had come from or when the cat had arrived. But for hours, maybe longer, the orange tabby had crouched beside it, her body curled protectively around its base. Cars passed. Rain fell. She didn't leave. Mrs. Ellery, the widowed florist from across the street, was the first to really notice. She watched from behind her lace curtains, heart tugged by the sight of that soaked, shivering animal, refusing to abandon the strange bag. When dawn broke and the cat was still there, her eyes now hollow with fatigue, but her stance firm, Mrs. Ellery stepped out with a trembling umbrella. "Sweetheart, what are you guarding?" she whispered. She approached slowly. The cat didn't hiss, didn't move, only let out a soft, hoarse mewl as Mrs. Ellery reached down toward the suitcase zipper, a sound not of fear, but something achingly like grief. Inside was something no one expected. Chapter 2. What the Rain Hid. The zipper gave a reluctant tug, stuck halfway down by rain-swollen fabric. Mrs. Ellery gripped the edge with both hands and pulled. Inside, bundled in a threadbare baby blanket, were two tiny kittens, barely a few days old. They didn't stir. Their fur was matted from the damp, their limbs frighteningly still. But then, the faintest twitch of an ear, a quiver in a paw, alive. Mrs. Ellery gasped. The tabby, still soaked to the bone, pushed her head into the open case and gave a soft nudge to the kittens. A mother, or perhaps just a guardian. Either way, she hadn't left their side. "I need help," Mrs. Ellery whispered aloud, even though no one was around. Clutching the suitcase against her chest, cat trailing at her side, she hurried home. Her arthritis screamed with every step, but the urgency in her chest kept her moving. She laid the kittens near her fireplace, wrapped in fresh towels, and set down a dish of warm milk for the mother. The cat didn't eat. She simply curled herself tightly around the newborns again, her purring weak but constant. As the fire crackled and the storm continued to rage, Mrs. Ellery knelt beside the trio and stroked the tabby's soaked fur. "You held on," she whispered, voice breaking. "You saved them." But the worst news would come hours later. One of the kittens was barely clinging to life. Chapter 3. The Battle for Breath. The vet's office was quiet, the hum of machines and soft beeping the only sound. Dr. Annika, a gentle woman with silver-streaked hair, examined the kittens with a furrowed brow. "This one's strong," she said, nodding toward the larger kitten. "But the little gray one, she's struggling." The tabby, who Mrs. Ellery had started calling Fern, paced near the metal table, eyes fixed on the doctor's every move. She meowed low, as if pleading, begging. Dr. Annika sighed and offered a hand to Fern, letting her press her face against it. "She might not make it," she said gently, "but we'll do what we can." Fern didn't rest. For the next 2 days, she remained by the kitten's side, refused to eat, sleep, or leave her even as Mrs. Ellery tried coaxing her with food and soft words. Only when the kitten finally suckled on a bottle for the first time did Fern close her eyes, just for a moment, and exhale. It wasn't over, but it was a start. That night, as the kittens slept nestled in a basket by the fire, Fern climbed onto Mrs. Ellery's lap for the first time. She didn't purr. She just rested her head against the woman's chest and stayed there, still as stone. And Mrs. Ellery, widowed and childless, felt something stir in the hollow part of her heart she thought had closed forever. Chapter 4. Echoes of a broken home curiosity spread through Sycamore Lane. Whispers passed from neighbor to neighbor. "Did you hear about the cat? They say she sat with that suitcase all night. There were kittens inside, nearly frozen." But no one came forward. No one claimed the suitcase or the kittens. Then, nearly a week later, a call came to the vet's office. A young man's voice. Shaky. Hesitant. "I think I know about that Suitcase cat." His name was Cody, 19 years old. He came in wearing the same hoodie he'd worn for days, eyes rimmed red. He'd found Fern and her kittens in the alley behind his building. His girlfriend had moved out, taking nothing, not even the cats they'd taken in together. "I didn't know what to do," he said, voice cracking. "I couldn't keep them. So I packed the kittens up. I thought someone might find them. I didn't know Fern would follow." Dr. Annika didn't scold him. She simply looked him in the eye and said, "They nearly died." Cody nodded, tears falling freely now. "I was scared. I'm sorry." Later, he met Fern. She didn't hiss, she didn't run. She looked at him, long and hard, and then turned her head toward Mrs. Ellery. She had chosen her new home. Chapter 5. Firelight and fir winter deepened. Snow blanketed Sycamore Lane in soft silence. Inside her little brick cottage, Mrs. Ellery moved slower these days, but her spirit felt lighter. Fern had become a permanent fixture, trailing behind her like a shadow, curling up beside her knitting basket, warming her feet at night. The kittens, now named Pebble and Ash, grew stronger each day. Ash, the grey one, still bore the faint weakness of those early days, but her will was mighty. Neighbors dropped by more often now, bringing treats, toys, asking to see the Suitcase cats. "They've got the whole lane wrapped around their paws," Mrs. Ellery would say with a smile, sipping tea. But one evening, as snow fell quietly outside, Fern leapt onto the windowsill and stared out into the night. For hours, she stayed there, unmoving, watching something only she could see. Mrs. Ellery joined her and rested a hand on her back. "You still remember, don't you? The night it all changed." Fern pressed her head gently into the woman's hand. Outside, the street was quiet, peaceful. But Fern never forgot the rain, the suitcase, or the choice she made to stay, to guard, to protect. She was more than a stray now. She was a mother, a survivor, a savior, and she was home. Chapter 6. The letter in the lining. Months later, as spring crept in and green returned to the lane, Mrs. Ellery finally decided to throw away the old suitcase. It had been stored in her attic, forgotten in the busyness of caring for the cats and rebuilding her quiet life. But as she opened it one last time, something caught her eye. A small flap in the lining, torn slightly. Inside, tucked away and almost missed, was a folded piece of paper, damp at the edges, faded in places, but still legible. It was a note. "I'm sorry, I couldn't keep them. Please, whoever finds this, don't blame her. She's the best cat I've ever known." There was no name, just a heart drawn in pencil. Mrs. Ellery stared at the note, tears rising. She traced the edge of the paper, then folded it gently and slipped it into her keepsake box. Some wounds couldn't be undone, some beginnings were born from heartbreak. But what Fern had saved, and what they had all become, was something stronger than sorrow. It was love. Chapter 7. What Remains. Years passed. The flowers in Mrs. Ellery's shop bloomed brighter than ever. Pebble and Ash grew into strong, watchful cats, always nearby, always gentle. Fern aged with grace, her movements slower, but her spirit unchanged. One summer evening, Fern climbed into Mrs. Ellery's lap as the old woman sat by the open window, the sounds of birds and children drifting in. "You came from pain," she whispered, stroking the cat's fur. "But you gave me everything." Fern blinked slowly, then rested her head against her human's chest, just as she had that first night. Outside, the world moved on. But inside the little cottage on Sycamore Lane, time stood still, held in the warm silence between an old woman and the stray who had waited in the rain. A story of sorrow, a story of survival, and above all else, a story of love.